mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about Season 2, Episode 7 of HBO Max's Raised by Wolves, entitled Feeding. I really love this episode, and it kind of goes against everything that I generally do when I review shows on this channel. I'm generally pretty hard on the small things, the things that connect things and make them make sense, and the details, and don't lead me in this one direction and then lead me somewhere else. Don't give me some information that I'm meant to interpret one way and then just forget about it, or all of these things. I need it to make sense. The show makes no sense most of the time. But for some reason, I'm just totally bought in on this. It gets weirder and weirder each week, but that makes it more and more fun. But they also do a great job of suspense, tension, drama. It's such an interesting show. It's such an interesting watch. And I've enjoyed, like I said, it's been getting better and better every week. I come on here every week, pause, and say that, and it continues to be true. And the finale looks like it's gonna be crazy. And I'm really enjoying this ride, man. It's been fun. I requested a lot of explanations on things, why, I said, I want to know why the baby that the creature took from Tempest, why it burned Tempest, but it didn't burn the baby. And, you guys gave some theories in the comments and whatnot. And then I'm watching this week and I'm like, you know what, man? I don't give a fuck. I don't need this to make sense. If you think about this show, why am I trying to get, this logical explanation for why a devolved human that can swim in acid water can touch, can not be burned by the acid water, can burn a person, can burn an adult, well, not an adult, but can burn a person, not burn this baby. I'm asking for this explanation in a world where a woman absorbed a seed and planted herself and grew into a tree. Why the fuck am I asking for these things? I gotta, what I'm doing now, and I was doing this in this episode, is just kind of letting the spectacle wash over me. And I think that's kind of the best way to enjoy this show, is to make sense of it where you can, where the show allows you, and then to just kind of just accept a lot. And that's been difficult for me because this is the second to last episode of the second season, and I'm just now it's just kind of clicking for me. You know what? Stop trying to make sense of all of this all the time, and just allow some of that spectacle to wash over you. The spectacle being the tension, the drama, the suspense, the visuals are fucking insane on this show. Just appreciate that kind of shit. So that's kind of the space that I'm in right now. I'm no longer going to call for some of these explanations, especially since we got a ton of information in this episode. And I'm going to go over it at the end. But the conversation between mother and grandmother totally reshaped how I view what's happened so far in the show. So, talking about the title, I'm going to start there. It's called Feeding. This obviously ties into the scene where father and the kids find Tempest's baby with the creature, and we see the creature. I think this is part of when I said, you know what, Mike? Stop trying to make sense of this shit. We see the creature breastfeeding. This is ridiculous, man. The creature breastfeeding the baby. And aside from being a wild visual, I had a brief moment where I thought, what is exactly coming out of there? Why is this human baby? And then I was able to consume whatever this is. And I was like, you know what? Why am I trying to make sense of this? Of course, there's not human milk coming out of this. Well, actually, there could be. It is a devolved human. But I need to not be thinking about that kind of stuff. So that's what this title refers to. And this is a large part of what we see in this episode. We see father and the girls go on this mission father and the kids, go on this mission to find Tempest's baby. They're along the shore. The acid water that Hunter, ever so useful, takes a droid and repurposes it to be able to submerge into the acid water. Tempest fucking flays a creature to wrap the droid in its skin. Wrap the droid in its skin to protect it against the acid water. And they spot a couple of creatures down there, but ultimately that wasn't very. That actually was kind of pointless because Vril shows up and says that she heard the baby in a cave. I think she said like 10 miles down the shore or whatever. And they have a debate on whether or not they can trust Vril, whether or not they should shut her down and trust Holly when Holly says like, yo, she killed everybody, which we know to be true. Whether or not they should shut Vril down, or Campion being pretty much the only proponent of this, allow Vril to be like part of their group. So I guess in an attempt to kind of prove herself as trustworthy, Vril decides that she's going to lead them to the baby. We end up with a fake out originally, and then later they do find the baby that ends up with the feeding scene. Tempest is just like, yo, I don't want nothing to do with this. Like, it's kind of weird. Like, I think it's more, I wish they hadn't added the part about where she says, every time I see the baby, I see him. I wish they hadn't added that, because they made me believe last week that she was past that. Like, her whole desire to find this baby. Because, like, if you really don't care about the baby, like I said, I was wondering if her whole plan was to chuck it in the acid water in the first place. So let's just say hypothetically that wasn't her plan. Regardless, she made a decision to keep this baby. And now that it's been captured, she's looking for it, which again shows a desire to keep this baby. And then all of a sudden she goes back to, every time I see it, I see his face. I wish she hadn't added that, and we had just left it at the idea of, like, clearly this kid thinks that this creature is its mother, it's feeding. Like, what am I gonna do here? And then Hunter comes in like me, like trying to like make everything logical. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? But Hunter kills the creature, takes the baby. Tempest is like, you keep that motherfucker, I'm out. And Tempest leaves. I don't know what to necessarily make of this other than the visual of seeing that was insane. And I promise you, if they get a third season, that baby is going to be a very big plot point. I promise you that. That's going to be a weird fucking baby. It's going to be integral to season 3 if they get one. I promise you that. Mother ends up, I don't know what she was doing to start the episode. She's like necromancering around and whatnot, and she stumbles across Tree Sue. She knows it's Sue, and eventually she leaves, and Marcus and Paul come back, and they're trying to figure out, okay, what do we do about Tree Sue? And earlier in the episode, we had seen that they had sent those fruits that had fallen off of the tree that Marcus ate some of. They had sent it back to the colony via Paul to distribute amongst the people under the idea that it would make them believers. Like, that's why Sue became a tree, is so that she could bear fruit that would make people believers. It's an interesting premise, I think, on its face, the idea that would be the reason. But we actually end up finding out what happened, why this happened later in the episode. But ultimately, it doesn't work. But the serpent gets kind of crazy inside his cage when the fruit is just nearby. The serpent breaks out, knocking over Mother, scoops up the remainder real quick, and flies away. And I don't know if it's really worth it to kind of like go over the sequence of events that kind of led us to where we ended up. But eventually we end up in a place where the serpent returns to Tree Sue and eats the tree, and then grows tentacles and like wing flaps. And again, I'm sitting here like, stop trying to make sense of this, Michael. This isn't gonna. It's time you let that go and just accept how fucking cool this is. Grows tentacles, and all of a sudden is on the warpath. Mother can't disable it. It's like she goes to do her necromancer scream, and it like sucks right back into her. And then the serpent is like, no, I'll show you how it's done. And then the serpent does that, knocks her out. She's retrieved by Marcus and Paul. They head back, presumably to get Mother fixed, because Mother can't essentially fight the serpent in her current condition. So they head back to get Mother fixed, and Mother has a meeting with Grandmother. And this is what I wanted to talk about, which I think is kind of like the main thing that we're supposed to take away from this episode. And I'm going to try to kind of go at it from like a chronological order sort of way, the way that I kind of picked up on this. But this conversation between Grandmother and Mother is incredibly important, because it lays out a lot of the motivations, a lot of the why it just doesn't lay out the most important why and the who. But what ends up happening is we find out that grandmother was made by the same people that made the card that had the tree on it. Presumably, these same people, also made the pentagonal orb or whatever. Or the pentagonal orb could have been made by who we will later refer to as the entity, and the card itself was just made by the people who made grandmother, who she called technocrats. These technocrats fought against the believers in the war, and the androids that were made to protect human life were called shepherds. I think we can kind of presume that father is a shepherd as well, because we know that grandmother asked him why isn't he wearing a veil, why is he talking this language, all that good stuff. So grandmother, I guess, assumes that father is a shepherd as well, maybe because they're the same skin color. That could be the only reason. And again, this is me reading too much into it. But whatever the case may be, we find that out. The key pickup here for me is that essentially grandmother says that all of this was the entity's plan. Grandmother and mother both kind of like talk and come to this conclusion, this realization that this entity, the same one that's been sending the signals, all this stuff, this was all like a long game to destroy this planet. Now, the why that we need is, why would this entity want to destroy this planet? And the who we need is, who the fuck is the entity? But apparently this entity, or whoever's responsible for this signal, whoever this being, person, figure, whoever this is responsible for impregnating mother. Like, remember, think long game here. Tricking mother into having virtual sex with OG Campion. This is such a crazy fucking show. Impregnated by the serpent. Then she gives birth to the serpent, but the serpent has yet to have its I guess necromancer powers activated yet. So the card exists. I think the card exists. I think what's the name? Lucius said it was a warning, as in like to not do this. But the orb that had the pentagonal orb that had the seed in it, again, I guess we are to presume that the entity is responsible for this, and that it was going to use these signals or whatever to trigger these people into thinking that it was, the work of soul. They would open this thing up eventually, and exactly what happened would happen. Somebody would consume it, become the tree that would create the fruit. The tree/fruit becomes a beacon for the serpent. The serpent eats the tree. The serpent gains the necromancer powers and the tentacles, and it's like full serpent now. That is my interpretation of what we were told in this episode. So now I'm wondering, heading into the finale, are we going to find out why this entity would create such an elaborate and complicated plan, which I know we're not going to find that out, because that's one of those things where it's like, I just got to accept that this was the plan and not even get hung up on details. And not necessarily why the entity chose such a complicated plan, but why would the entity or whoever this is want to destroy this planet? If we find out why the plan was constructed the way it was, that would, I was about to say that would literally blow my head off. It wouldn't, but like not literally, but metaphorically, that would blow my mind if we got that. I don't expect to get that. And then we also need to know who this entity is. So those look like our central mysteries, and I don't think we're gonna get answers to those in the finale. I feel like this is probably like a season 3 thing. Like my gut feels a 3-season arc here, and then the 3rd season will prominently feature this baby and delve more into these devolved creatures and how they relate to the androids that we see today. When I say see today, I mean father versus grandmother. How do these things relate, and dealing with whoever this entity is and why why they're doing what they're doing. I feel like that's going to be a season 3 arc, but we're there, and I don't know. I'm pretty fucking intrigued, man. I just love talking about this show because, like, it's like I visually see ridiculous sentences coming out of my mouth, and I'm like, what the fuck kind of show is this? But man, I had a good time with this one, man, and I loved all the information we got at the end. There's this plan. The plan. I forgot about to talk about that. The plan apparently grandmother's veil is some sort of sensory depriving thing that helps them make logical decisions that work best to preserve humanity. So grandmother suggests that mother wear that veil, so that way her caregiving attributes or whatever can be blocked off, and she can then be able to kill the serpent, which is the reason why she wasn't able to kill the serpent while the scream came back in, because it was her caregiving mode or whatever, not allowing her to kill her child. So I think, again, the entity is playing the long game here. Like, they know, I'm assuming, that Mother will not be able to stop this serpent because of the caregiving, because it's set up that, like, that's why it had Mother get impregnated with the serpent, because it knows, like, now the most powerful being there is, this necromancer, won't be able to kill it because of its caregiving fucking protocol or whatever. It's a brilliant plan, but it's like, I mean, hey, I beat a robot impregnated with a serpent who has to have some weird religious cult turn themselves into a fruit tree and then eat the fruit tree. Like, what a fucking show, man. So, where am I at? 16 minutes? So I'm going to wrap this up, but I do have a couple of quick thoughts. I love the shot of Trisu with the sunset in the background. I thought that was a really cool shot. And then right after that, there's a really cool shot of, like, the serpent kind of arriving from far, zigzagging through the sky. I also love the shot of it eating the tree. They explained in, like, the post show or whatever that the tree, they explained how they animated it, but then they explained that the branches were supposed to kind of converge into a cone like that in order to make it easier for the serpent to eat it. So that was kind of confirmation for me coming out of the episode that all of this was orchestrated and intended. And then I liked, so Vril and Campion have some moments in this episode. Vril admits that the human version of herself, I think she says, like, killed herself because she found out that Decima was selling illegal weapons or something like that. She starts to break down and knows that she only has a few minutes and starts, like, writing, like, her like Vril's original memories or something into this tree. I think it's to help so that if they decide they want to make a new Vril, they will have whatever's written in that tree to help bring back as much of the original Vril as possible. And I think that'll probably happen. I think we'll probably have, like, Vril in season 3 as, like, a regular amongst the group of kids that's a new Vril that they just implanted with the memories that she scribbled on that tree. So we get that. That's how we end the episode. And then lastly, I loved how, again, they slid in the weirdest fucking humor, man, when they're talking about Father and Hunter. They're talking about Hunter's android. He says, I heard you traded your medallion for this. And he said, yeah, well, you told me your medallion was useless. And then Father says, like, the medallion didn't need maintenance to be useless, which was a cold ass jab at the android. And then the android, fucking headless, just gives him the finger. I thought that was a great scene. So, real fun episode. I'm kind of, like, out on being overly analytical of this show, and I'm just gonna kind of, like, accept its weirdness and take the information it gives me when it does, and just continue to appreciate how creative, how cool, how fun, how thrilling the show is. And continue to enjoy the season. It looks like the finale is gonna be a banger. So I will see you guys next Thursday for the finale. Peace.